Welcome, my friends, to the fascinating story of a woman's journey from deception and heartbreak to liberation and new beginnings. Enjoy the story. Emily Walker's jaw dropped as she stared at the stranger on her doorstep. "I'm sorry, what did you say?" "My great-aunt Anna left me an inheritance." The man, dressed in a cheap suit, gave a patronizing smile. "Yes, ma'am. It seems your aunt was quite well off, unbeknownst to most." Funny how the elderly can be full of surprises, isn't it? Emily let out an incredulous laugh. "Aunt Anna wealthy? I'm sorry, but you must have the wrong person. That woman lived like a pauper." "Be that as it may," the man replied with a shrug, "your presence is requested at the reading of her will. Friday, 3 p.m. sharp at McGrady and Sons Law Offices, downtown. Don't be late." He tipped his hat and turned to leave. "Wait," Emily called after him, but he was already walking briskly to his car. She closed the door slowly, her mind reeling. An inheritance from Aunt Anna. It didn't make any sense. Emily sat at her small kitchen table, nursing a cup of coffee as she thought back on her relationship with her great-aunt. Truth be told, they had never been particularly close. Anna was a mean-spirited, miserly old woman who never had a kind word to say to anyone. But she was family, and Emily made an effort to visit her regularly over the years, helping with chores, bringing meals, arranging birthday celebrations. No matter how sourly Anna behaved, Emily always kept a patient smile on her face. Her husband, Mark, on the other hand, had no time for the old battle axe. He'd only met Anna a handful of times, once before their wedding and once or twice after. But that was more than enough for him. The way she lived, the snide comments she made about him, he saw no reason to subject himself to her miserable presence. Emily sighed, wondering if there could be any truth to the lawyer's claims. Had Anna really been secretly wealthy all this time? She tried to picture what she would do with an inheritance. Maybe she could finally quit her second job waiting tables on the weekends. Maybe she could actually get a decent night's sleep for once. Glancing up at the clock, Emily swore under her breath. She was going to be late for her shift at the diner if she didn't get a move on. She gulped down the rest of her coffee, grabbed her purse, and headed for the door. She'd have to call Mark from the bus and let him know about this perplexing development. As luck would have it, Emily managed to snag a seat on the crowded bus. She pulled out her phone and dialed Mark's number, hoping he was feeling well enough to chat. "Hey, babe," he answered groggily. "What's up?" "You'll never believe what just happened," Emily began. "I got a visit from some lawyer claiming Aunt Anna left me an inheritance." "An inheritance? Can you believe it?" Mark let out a low whistle. The old bird had some hidden wealth tucked away, apparently. Emily said, "I'm supposed to go to a will reading on Friday afternoon. I don't know what to think." "Well, hey, that's great news," Mark replied with forced enthusiasm. "Maybe you can finally take some time off work. Lord knows you deserve a break." Emily smiled sadly. If only it were that simple. "We'll see. How are you feeling today? Any updates from your mom?" Mark's mother, Linda, worked at Mercy Hospital and had been pulling strings to get him seen by specialists for his chronic health issues. His sensitive constitution made it impossible for him to hold down a job for more than a day or two before conflicts with coworkers landed him in the ER with panic attacks. Emily had been working herself to the bone to afford his expensive vitamin regimens and herbal supplements. "Oh, same old," Mark sighed dramatically. "I don't know, Em. Maybe it's time to just accept my lot in life as an invalid. Reproducing would probably be irresponsible anyway with my weak genes." Emily bit her tongue, pushing down the ache in her heart at the thought of the baby they had planned to try for this year. "Don't say that," she replied softly. "You're going to get better. I know it. Just keep resting and let your mom work her magic, Okay, I'll come visit you tomorrow at the hospital. After exchanging "I love you," Emily hung up the phone and stared out the bus window, trying not to let Mark's negativity get to her. She had to stay positive. Maybe this inheritance would be the stroke of good luck they so desperately needed. The next morning, Emily arrived at room 242 in Mercy Hospital, excited to see Mark. She knocked twice and entered with a big smile, only to have it quickly fade as Mark scowled at her from his bed. "Hey, babe," she said brightly, leaning in to give him a kiss. He turned his head away. "You didn't put on any makeup today," he asked irritably. "Seriously, every other wife on this floor looks like a model when they visit, and I'm stuck with a hag." Emily recoiled as if slapped. "Mark, how can you say that to me? You know how exhausted I am from work. I barely have time to." Yeah, you're a big martyr." "I get it," he cut her off, waving his hand dismissively. "When's that inheritance money coming in again?" "Hopefully soon, so you can actually make yourself presentable." Blinking back tears, Emily turned and fled the room without another word. She stumbled down the hallway, finally collapsing on a bench near the elevators. Was this really what her marriage had come to? As she sat with her head in her hands, she couldn't help but overhear the conversation of two male patients strolling by. "I told my old lady I had to stay here through the weekend for Tess," one chuckled to the other. "Really? I've got a poker game lined up with the orderly and enough booze to drop an elephant." "Same, bro," his friend replied with a grin. "What the wives don't know won't hurt them, right? They think we're saints for being stuck here." Emily thought she might be sick. Did all men behave this way behind closed doors? She shook her head firmly. No, not her Mark. He would never lie to her like that. He was just cranky from being cooped up, that's all. She took a deep breath, dried her eyes, and headed out into the bright sunlight. Tomorrow was the big day. She needed to focus on that. That Friday morning dawned crisp and clear. Emily woke up early, determined to get the apartment spotless before Mark returned home on Monday. She still couldn't quite wrap her head around the idea of receiving an inheritance. Her family had never had two nickels to rub together growing up, but maybe this was the fresh start they needed to finally get ahead. Arriving at the lawyer's office an hour ahead of schedule, Emily was ushered into a plush waiting room by a friendly receptionist. "Coffee?" the young woman offered. "Please," Emily replied gratefully, sinking into an emerald green armchair that probably cost more than her entire living room set. She was just stirring in her cream and sugar when her cell phone started buzzing incessantly. "Mark, let me guess, calling to see how big the inheritance is," she answered, rolling her eyes good-naturedly. "Ah, yeah," Mark replied. "Can you blame me? This is huge." So spill the beans already." "I won't know anything for at least another hour," she explained patiently. "I promise as soon as I have a number, you'll be the first to know." As the minutes ticked by, Emily found herself getting more and more anxious. What would she do if it was life-changing money? What would she do if it wasn't? When her name was finally called, her heart leaped into her throat. "Miss Walker, please come with me." The plush carpet muffled her footsteps as she was led into a stately office, walls lined with law books. An older gentleman in a three-piece suit rose from behind a massive oak desk to shake her hand. "Miss Walker, I'm Bernard McGrady. So glad you could make it today." "Thank you for having me," Emily replied automatically, taking a seat across from him. "I have to admit, this is all quite overwhelming. My Aunt Anna wasn't exactly forthcoming about her finances." Mr. McGrady chuckled. "No, she certainly had a reputation for being tight-lipped, but I can assure you your great Aunt Anna was a woman of considerable means." He slid a file folder across the desk to her. Emily opened it with trembling hands and nearly fell out of her chair when she saw the number neatly printed on the page. This has to be a mistake, she gasped. There are too many zeros. It can't possibly be $6.2 million. Mr. McGrady said with a smile, "Let me assure you, there's no mistake." Emily clutched the folder to her chest, her head spinning. $6.2 million. It was more money than she ever could have dreamed of. A hysterical laugh bubbled up in her throat. Wait until Mark heard about this. With shaking fingers, she pulled out her phone under the desk and hurriedly typed out a text to her husband. Inheritance is $6,200. Can you believe it? In her excitement, she didn't even realize she had left off the last 3 crucial zeros before hitting send. Unable to sit through the rest of the meeting, Emily made hasty excuses about needing to process the shocking news and fled the office with a legal folder containing her new future clutched in her arms. She had to see Mark right away and share this incredible, life-altering development. He was going to absolutely flip. Bypassing the bus, she hailed a cab and barked out the address to Mercy Hospital, fidgeting the whole way there as the city blocks crawled by. When the car finally pulled up to the main entrance, she threw a wad of bills at the driver, not even bothering to wait for change. She took the stairs 2 at a time up to the 2nd floor, bursting with excitement to reveal their new fortune to the love of her life. As she approached room 242, however, the sound of familiar voices made her pause outside the door. It was Mark and his mother, Linda, deep in conversation. Emily knew she shouldn't eavesdrop, but something compelled her to remain still and listen. "And the stupid cow actually bought it," Mark was saying, his tone dripping with derision. "Can you believe she thinks I'm actually sick? Like I'd ever waste my time in this hellhole if I didn't have to." Linda laughed. "Crikey, you've got her wrapped around your finger. So knave, that one. I still can't believe you married so far beneath you." "Tell me about it," Mark groaned. "But did you hear the best part? Aunt Anna left us some money. Once she gets that transferred over to my account, I'm dropping her like a bad habit. Let her keep playing nurse and housekeeper to some other sap." Emily felt the blood drain from her face. She blinked rapidly, convinced she must be having some sort of nightmare. There was no way this could be real, but the cavalier laughter coming from Mark and Linda confirmed the devastating truth. Her entire marriage, her entire life with this man, had been nothing but a lie. Unable to listen to another word, she turned and fled, not even noticing the hot tears streaming down her cheeks. She ran and ran until her lungs burned and her feet ached. When she finally stopped to catch her breath, she found herself by the East River, staring out at the murky water. As she watched the swirling currents, Aunt Anna's voice echoed in her head. "That boy is a lazy freeloader who's going to bleed you dry," the old woman had warned Emily after meeting Mark for the first time. "Mark my words, Missy, you're making a huge mistake." At the time, Emily had written it off as the ramblings of a bitter old spinster. But now, with her heart shattered into a million pieces, she saw the truth of it with stunning clarity. Anna had been right all along, and by some miracle, she had ensured Emily would have the means to break free before it was too late. Squaring her shoulders, Emily turned her back on the river and strolled purposefully down the sidewalk. She had calls to make and divorce papers to file. As for Mark, he would be in for the shock of his life when he came home on Monday to an empty apartment. In the meantime, Emily decided she would stay with her best friend, Tara, for a few days before taking off on a much-needed solo trip out to the Hamptons to heal. For the first time in years, as the warm June sun beat down on her face, Emily felt a flicker of hope. Maybe, just maybe, her life wasn't ruined after all. Maybe this was all just the start of an incredible new chapter. She couldn't wait to find out. 3 days later, Mark hobbled through the door of their apartment, prescription pain meds in hand. "Honey, I'm home," he called out mockingly. "Where's my inheritance check?" Silence greeted him. Frowning, he looked around in confusion, noticing the bare walls and empty shelves for the first time. A single sheet of paper lay on the kitchen counter. "Dear Mark," it began in Emily's familiar loopy script. "By the time you read this, I'll be long gone. And in case you haven't figured it out yet, I know everything. I know you've been faking sick to avoid working. I know you and your mother have been laughing at me behind my back, and I know you were planning to take my money and run. Well, the joke's on you because that inheritance wasn't $62,000. It was $6.2 million. And every penny of it is mine. I already filed for divorce. You have 30 days to collect your things and get out of my apartment. Have a nice life. Emily." Mark let out a strangled yell of shock and rage as the letter fluttered to the floor. He kicked a chair in frustration, swearing up a storm. How had he underestimated her so badly? He thought he had her under his thumb. As he sank to the ground in defeat, Emily was worlds away, stretched out on a beach chair with the sea breeze ruffling her hair. She sipped a fruity cocktail as she watched the waves roll in, thinking about the cozy beach bungalow she had just put an offer on. "Everything happens for a reason," Aunt Anna used to say. Emily raised her glass to the sky in a silent toast, thanking her wise aunt for the lesson and the inheritance. For the first time in forever, she couldn't wait to see what surprises life had in store for her next.